People have big questions, like, can we prove God exists? Or, do we have freedom? Thinking tries to answer them, but our minds need rules so we don't fight or guess wrong. Metaphysics grew tired because it had no clear plan, so the author wants to check how reason works before experience. This book, The Critique of Pure Reason, asks, what can we know just by thinking, and what rules help us do that? The goal is to make sure reason stays honest and helpful, especially so morals, science, and real knowledge don't fall apart. We learn that some ideas, like space and time, come from our minds before we see anything. Space is how we picture things outside us, and time is how we feel changes inside us. These are not real places or moments outside of us. They are forms that let us organize every experience. Without them, we couldn't do geometry or understand how objects move. Thinking itself has rules too. Our minds join pictures into ideas with something called synthesis, and the understanding uses categories like cause, unity, possibility to keep everything in order. We need both feelings, sensibility, and thinking, understanding working together through imagination, so our judgments have meaning. This careful study of how pure ideas work before any experience is meant to guide future science and keep reason from guessing wildly. Our mind works like a builder. Every time we pay attention, it puts small pieces from sight or touch together with rules to make one clear thought. When I think I am, that proves I exist, but only inside me. To understand myself, I need time inside me. And to know anything outside, I need both rules and pictures from my senses. These rules, called categories, are things like quantity, reality, negation, substance, cause, community, possibility, existence, and necessity. They come before experience and help the mind join ideas with what we sense. Space and time give the shape for these joins. The mind also uses something called schemata. They are plans that tell our imagination how to make a picture that matches a big idea. Each category has its own schema, and time is the bridge between ideas and senses. For example, quantity needs numbers built step by step in time, and cause is a rule that one event follows another. Without schemata, categories would be empty and could not tell us anything real. There are two kinds of judgments we make. Analytical judgments only explain what is already inside an idea. Synthetic judgments add something new, and to make them we need more than just the idea itself. We need the unity of our inner time and the imagination, so we can compare different ideas and join them with what we see. That is why experience is very important. It gives meaning to our ideas and lets us test them. Even math comes from our mind before experience, but it becomes real only when we can show it in space or time. Without experience, pure ideas have no object. Our knowledge always comes from combining rules of understanding with sense data. That means we can never truly know things in themselves, beyond what we can see or feel. We may call those unknown things noumena, but we cannot describe them, so we only speak about appearances. Pure thinking needs real senses to match its ideas. If we try to think without senses, we cannot make new true statements. So, understanding and senses stay together. We can reflect on our own thinking to avoid mistakes, like mixing up ideas from senses with ideas from pure thought. Names for ideas like matter, form, purpose, and force help us stay clear. Pure reason also has big ideas that guide us, even though we cannot prove them with senses. It searches for the best explanations, like the ideas of a soul, the world, or God. It wants to connect small rules into one great pattern. Sometimes it makes wrong jumps, creating illusions or antinomies, two opposite but reasonable claims based on the same facts. For example, one argument can say the world must have a beginning because we can't add infinitely many past events, while another says it could go back forever because every event depends on an earlier one. These problems show our mind needs rules to keep thinking straight and to know its limits. To help experience stay possible, the understanding gives principles. The mathematical principles treat space and time as continuous wholes. We build part by part, like drawing a line or adding numbers. The dynamical principles, called analogies of experience, explain how things stay the same inside, even as they change. Substance, how every change has a cause, causality, and how things that exist together affect each other, community. These rules are not about new facts, but about how we must think if we want to understand events and time. Along with them are postulates. If something has the form or matter of experience, it could exist. If it fits the rules of experience, it does exist. Experience also proves the outside world exists, because our inner sense of time needs real changes from things outside us. We cannot know ourselves without knowing that other things keep changing in order and cause feelings in us. That means the sense world and our inner rules work together. Pure reason tries to go beyond that, but when it does, it makes mistakes that we must watch for. Finally, reason moves us to think about freedom and necessity. We cannot explain everything with natural causes alone, or else there would be no real first cause or beginning. So we allow that a free mind can begin a new chain of events, even though we cannot prove how. At the same time, we cannot say there is an absolutely necessary being inside or outside the world just from experience. Reason sees both sides, and this tells us to stay careful, to use moral sense when logic cannot go further, and to remember that our knowledge always depends on combining ideas with what we can learn through our senses. People often try to use reason, which is the part of our minds that thinks carefully, to answer huge questions like, did the world start somewhere? Is there something unchanging inside us? Are we really free to choose? And is there one big cause that explains everything? These questions feel important because they help us make sense of life. But they are also tricky because they go beyond what we can see. Some thinkers only trust what our senses tell us. They say we should only believe in what we can observe. Others let pure thinking go beyond experience and imagine things the world doesn't show us. Both sides believe they are right, but reason gets stuck because each side contradicts the other. Imagine two people arguing about whether the world has a beginning. Each side looks at the same logic and comes to opposite answers. Reason doesn't like this fight, so it asks, maybe we are misunderstanding the question. One reason for the trouble is that we treat the world like it is a finished object when it isn't. We can only know the world step by step through experience. When we try to explain a thing by tracing backward through causes, we never actually see all the causes at once. That doesn't mean they don't exist, but it means our question keeps going. This is called an indefinite regress. It says, keep going from one thing to what caused it, but don't expect to reach a final full list just by thinking. Instead of insisting the world is either infinite or finite, we should simply follow the rule that pushes us to keep searching. The world is always changing, so we can't give it a last limit. At the same time, reason uses big ideas to guide us. These are not real objects we can touch. They are ways of thinking that help us organize what we see. For example, we often imagine that all causes must lead back to one supreme being. That idea helps us plan and build systems of knowledge, but it doesn't prove anything exists outside our minds. It is a rule we use to keep looking for unity, not proof of a real thing. There are two kinds of big ideas, mathematical ones, which deal with sizes and parts of things, and dynamical ones, which deal with causes and actions. When we try to explain how an event can happen, we see a chain of cause and effect. But we also feel there's a free part of us that can start actions, not just follow natural rules. This freedom is not something we can see, but we feel it because we blame people when they do wrong. We think they could have chosen better. To solve the struggle, we imagine that our sensible world, what we see, connects with an intelligible side, which is part of things we can't sense. The same event can belong to both worlds. It follows natural laws when seen as a phenomenon, but it can also be started freely by something outside those laws. This keeps nature and freedom from fighting. We never prove the freedom exists, but reason says the idea helps us explain how people act and how we can follow moral rules. Reason also uses helpful rules called maxims or heuristics. These are like maps that tell us to look for similarities, to divide things into parts carefully, and to keep working toward unity. They aren't facts, but they help us study nature. For example, scientists think the planets follow certain paths, and they imagine even far or unseen objects might follow the same rules. These ideas help us stick to steady thinking, even though we can't finish the whole map. If we misuse these ideas by pretending they are real things or by forcing the world to match a perfect picture, we get confused or stop exploring. Instead, we should use reason as a helper, not a magician. We start with observations, build understanding, and let big ideas guide us toward more knowledge. But we must never forget that experience is the base. Reason helps us ask better questions, stay curious, and keep connecting what we learn. In the end, the most important thing is to keep the search honest. Reason shows us we can't prove everything, but it gives us rules to keep learning. We can't say the world is infinite or that a supreme being exists just because we like the idea. But we can use those ideas to stay humble, work harder, and keep looking for understanding inside the world we experience. Pure reason is like a building. We wanted a tall tower but only had what it takes to build a strong house. That house is good. It helps us understand the world we see. But we cannot reach the sky with it. Different workers argued about plans, so now we must build a safe place for the mind, using the materials we have. They are enough if we follow rules. The transcendental doctrine of method explains how to build a full system of pure reason. It studies its discipline, rules, structure, and history. Ordinary logic only teaches names and signs. Here we learn how to use reason correctly. Negative judgments might seem bad, but they help us avoid mistakes when knowledge is hard to get. Discipline tells us what not to do, and teaching tells us what to do. Reason can make mistakes, especially when it tries to think about big, general ideas without experience. When reason works with experience or with math, it is safe. But when it starts imagining things beyond experience, it can wander off and needs discipline. Philosophy's job is to say stop whenever reason goes too far. So we need a system of rules to check every part of reason. Mathematics is different from philosophy. Math builds pictures in the mind, like drawing a triangle, and this gives new knowledge. Philosophy mostly works with ideas, so it cannot make new truths by itself. To find new truths, we need intuition, either real or imagined. Math uses pure intuition to make sure things are true. Philosophy can only explain ideas and how they fit with experience. There is only one pure intuition: space and time. We can picture them in our mind, but the things inside space and time come from experience. If we just talk about an idea like reality, we only repeat what we already know. But if we draw a triangle or test gold with our senses, we learn more. Philosophy gives rules for experience but cannot show experience itself, so it doesn't work like math. Definitions belong to things we can build ourselves, like math. Philosophy only explains ideas. Axioms are clear, simple truths we know without proof, like 2 + 2 = 4. Philosophy, which works with ideas, cannot rely on axioms like math can. Philosophical proof must use careful reasoning, because it cannot show a picture or intuition. Pure reason cannot discover new truths beyond experience, but it can prevent errors. It needs criticism. We should question all ideas and let reason be tested. When two people argue, we should try to find mistakes in our own thinking first. If we can't prove something for sure, we should stay calm and ask more questions. Hypotheses, educated guesses can help in debates, but they must be tied to something certain and not become final truths. Some big questions, like whether God exists or whether the soul is immortal, deal with things beyond experience. Pure reason cannot prove either side. But practical reason, which guides what we should do, still needs these ideas. When we act, we follow moral laws. These laws come from reason itself, not from experience. If morality is real, we should be able to hope for happiness if we live by it. To make sense of moral hope, we imagine a moral world where good people are happy. This requires a supreme cause, God, and another life. These are not proofs but needed ideas that help us connect morality, happiness, and freedom. We shouldn't say moral laws come from God's command. Instead, we obey them because they are reasonable rules. The idea of God and a future life supports morality, but morality stands on its own. Belief is not the same as knowledge. Opinion is unsure. Belief feels strong but might still be wrong. Knowledge is strong for everyone. We should only claim knowledge when we have good reasons. But when we must act, like doctors helping sick people, we rely on practical belief, especially when reason can't prove everything. Philosophy needs a system, a big idea that holds everything together. Science should grow from reason, not from random facts. Pure reason divides knowledge into historical, what others say, and rational, from principles. Metaphysics is the part of philosophy that studies what we can know before experience. It includes studying nature, speculative, and ethics, practical. It needs clear limits so that reason stays safe. In history, some philosophers trusted only the senses. Others trusted only the mind. This created confusion. Now we need a middle path that lets reason work carefully. We must move beyond natural guesses and build a critical method that keeps reason honest. If we walk this new path together, we can find peace in our search for truth.